What if the words a man says could quietly steal your peace, leaving you feeling small without you even realizing it? I've spoken with so many women who've shared their stories of love, women who've poured their hearts into relationships only to find themselves tangled in doubt, drained by subtle phrases that seemed harmless at first, but carried a weight that pulled them away from the tranquility they deserved, the tranquility they'd fought so hard to find in their lives. I've turned to the wisdom of Carl Jung, the brilliant Swiss psychologist who understood the shadows behind human behavior, and I've uncovered a truth that can guide us, a truth that reveals 5 phrases, 5 warning signs that signal it's time to walk away, phrases that Jung's insights can help us see clearly, phrases that tell us to protect ourselves, to set boundaries, to choose our own peace over a love that dims our light. For women seeking a life of meaning and clarity, recognizing these red flags isn't just about avoiding hurt. It's about reclaiming your strength, honoring your worth, and building a future where love feels safe, where love feels true. In this video, I'll share Carl Jung's insights on setting boundaries, revealing 5 phrases that signal it's time to walk away, exploring what they mean through Jung's lens, and showing you how to protect your inner peace so you can live with the clarity and strength you deserve, a strength that allows you to love and be loved in a healthy way, in a way that's real. Let's start with the first phrase you should be wary of. You have to accept me as I am. A statement that sounds honest, but can be deeply harmful. At first glance, this phrase might seem like a plea for understanding, a moment of vulnerability, where a man is asking you to love him for who he is, flaws and all. But Carl Jung would caution us to look deeper, because behind these words often lies a refusal to grow, a refusal to take responsibility, a refusal to face the parts of himself that might need to change for the sake of a healthy relationship, parts that could hurt you if you stay. Jung taught us about the shadow, the hidden parts of ourselves we don't want to see, the parts we deny, like stubbornness, selfishness, or emotional immaturity. And when a man says, "You have to accept me as I am," he might be using this phrase to shield his shadow, to avoid the hard work of growth, to justify behaviors that aren't just flaws, but red flags, behaviors like emotional manipulation, avoidance of responsibility, or passive-aggressive tendencies that can leave you feeling drained, unvalued, and alone in the relationship. Carl Jung believed that true growth begins when we face our shadow, when we stop making excuses and start integrating those hidden parts into a more whole, mature self. But when a man uses this phrase to dismiss your concerns, to shut down any conversation about change, he's not showing authenticity, he's showing resistance. A resistance that can trap you in a cycle of excuses, broken promises, and emotional labor, where you're the one carrying the weight of the relationship, while he stays the same, unmoved, unchanged. It's like a wall he's built around himself, a wall that keeps out growth, a wall that keeps out love, a wall that can make you feel stuck, as if you're the one who needs to change, to accept, to sacrifice, just to keep the peace. But at what cost to your own inner peace, to your own sense of worth? Carl Jung's insights on setting boundaries remind us that accepting someone doesn't mean tolerating the unacceptable. It means recognizing when a relationship is holding you back, when it's time to walk away, when it's time to choose yourself. Because a healthy love isn't about staying the same, it's about growing together, And if he's not willing to grow, you shouldn't have to shrink. Have you ever heard this phrase and felt a quiet unease, as if something wasn't quite right? Now let's explore the second phrase. All my exes were crazy. A statement that might sound casual, but reveals a troubling pattern. When a man says this, it can feel like he's just venting about his past, sharing a piece of his story to connect with you. But Carl Jung would urge us to listen closely, because beneath these words often lies a deeper issue. A refusal to take responsibility, a tendency to play the victim, a sign that he hasn't faced his own shadow, the hidden parts of himself that might have contributed to those past conflicts. Jung taught us that the shadow holds the parts of ourselves we don't want to see, the parts we deny, like our own flaws, our own mistakes, our own patterns of behavior that might hurt others. And when a man consistently blames his exes, calling them crazy, without ever reflecting on his role in those relationships, he's projecting his shadow onto them, refusing to look at himself, refusing to grow, refusing to take accountability for his part in the story. Carl Jung's insights on toxic relationship signs show us that this phrase often signals a chronic victim mindset, a pattern where a man avoids self-reflection, recycles blame, and sets you up to be the next person he'll label as crazy when things go wrong, because if he can't see his own flaws, if he can't own his own mistakes, he'll always find someone else to point the finger at. And that someone might eventually be you, leaving you trapped in a cycle of doubt, guilt, and emotional exhaustion, wondering what you did wrong, when the truth is, the problem was never yours to begin with. It's like a trap, one that lures you in with the promise of being the different one, the one who won't disappoint him. But in reality, it's a setup for failure, because a man who can't face his shadow, who can't take responsibility, will never be able to build a healthy relationship, no matter how much love you give, no matter how hard you try, because he's not ready to grow, he's not ready to love, he's not ready to be the partner you deserve. Carl Jung's wisdom reminds us that we're not here to fix anyone, we're here to share our lives with someone who can walk beside us, someone who can grow with us, someone who can love us with the same honesty we give. And if he's stuck in a victim mindset, it's time to walk away, to protect your inner peace, to choose yourself. Have you ever heard this phrase and wondered if it was a red flag, a sign of something deeper? Let's look at the third phrase. If you really loved me, you'd do what I ask. A statement that sounds loving, but is deeply manipulative. At first, this phrase might feel like a heartfelt request, a way for a man to express his needs, to ask for your support. But Carl Jung would caution us to see it for what it often is, a subtle form of emotional blackmail, a tactic that uses your love as a weapon to control you, to make you feel guilty for having boundaries, to pull you into a space where your feelings are questioned, where your autonomy is eroded, where your inner peace is sacrificed for the sake of keeping him happy. Jung taught us about the shadow, the hidden parts of ourselves we don't want to face. And when a man uses this phrase, he's often projecting his own shadow onto you, his own insecurities, his own need for control, hiding them under the mask of love. Because if he can make you feel like your love is on the line, like you need to prove it by doing what he wants, he can override your will. He can make you feel like you're the one who's failing, when in reality, he's the one who's failing to love you with the respect you deserve. Carl Jung's insights on toxic relationship signs show us that this phrase isn't about love. It's about power. It's about conditioning your affection. making you feel like you're only worthy if you comply, if you give in, if you put his needs above your own. But this isn't love. It's manipulation dressed as devotion, a kind of emotional trap that tightens with every demand, pulling you further from yourself, further from your peace, further from the woman you are, the woman you deserve to be. It's like a rope that binds you, not with strength but with guilt. A rope that makes you feel like you're the one who's wrong for saying no, for standing up for yourself, for choosing your own peace over his control. But Carl Jung's wisdom on setting boundaries reminds us that true love doesn't come with conditions. It doesn't demand your submission. It doesn't make you feel less for being yourself. It honors your freedom, your truth, your worth. If a man uses your love to manipulate you, it's time to walk away, to protect your inner peace, to choose a love that lifts you up, not one that pulls you down. Have you ever felt the weight of this phrase, the way it made you question your own heart? Now, let's explore the fourth phrase. You're not enough for me, a statement that can shatter your self-worth if you don't see its toxicity. When a man says these words, they hit like a blow, because they don't just criticize, they attack the very core of who you are, your value, your essence, your worth, making you feel small, inadequate, unworthy of love. And that's exactly what they're meant to do. Because Carl Jung would tell us that this phrase isn't really about you. It's about him, about the shadow he hasn't faced, the insecurities he's projecting onto you, the need for control he's hiding behind a cruel facade. Jung taught us that the shadow holds the parts of ourselves we don't want to see, like our own feelings of inadequacy, our own fears of not being enough. And when a man says, "You're not enough for me," he's often projecting his own shadow, his own emptiness, his own need to feel superior, because if he can make you feel less, he can keep you dependent on his validation. He can keep you chasing his approval. He can keep you in a cycle of self-doubt that benefits him, but destroys you, eroding your confidence, your peace, your sense of self, bit by bit, until you're left questioning everything you once knew about your worth. It's like a dagger, not just wounding you, but leaving a scar that makes you doubt your own light, a scar that makes you feel like you need to be more, to do more, to prove yourself, when the truth is you were always enough, and the problem was never yours to fix. It was his, because a man who needs to tear you down to feel better about himself hasn't faced his own shadow, hasn't done the work to grow, hasn't learned to love in a way that lifts both of you up. And that's not a love you should stay for. That's a love you should walk away from. Carl Jung's wisdom on women boundaries reminds us that we're not here to prove our worth to anyone. We're here to share our lives with someone who sees our value, who honors our light, who loves us for who we are, not for who they want us to be. And if a man can't see your worth, if he makes you feel like you're not enough, it's time to choose yourself, to protect your inner peace, to walk away with the strength you deserve. Have you ever heard this phrase and felt its sting, the way it made you question your own value? Let's look at the final phrase. Do whatever you want, often said with a passive-aggressive tone, a phrase that's subtle but manipulative. At first, this phrase might sound like a man is giving you freedom, letting you make your own choices. But when it's said with a hint of sarcasm, coldness, or resentment, Carl Jung would warn us that it's not freedom at all. It's a trap, a way to make you feel guilty for doing what you want, a way to control you through ambiguity, leaving you second-guessing yourself, wondering if you've done something wrong, if you've upset him, if you need to fix things, even when you've done nothing to deserve that guilt. Jung taught us that the shadow often hides in the things we don't say, in the emotions we bury, and when a man uses this phrase with a passive-aggressive tone, he's projecting his shadow, his unexpressed frustration, his unwillingness to communicate clearly onto you, expecting you to guess what he really means, to feel the weight of his disapproval without him ever having to say it out loud, creating a cycle of uncertainty that erodes your peace, that makes you feel like you're walking on eggshells, always trying to please, always trying to avoid conflict, always trying to decode his hidden messages, when the truth is, you shouldn't have to. It's like a fog, clouding your clarity, making you feel lost in a maze of his emotions, a maze where you're the one who's blamed for not finding the way out, even though he's the one who built it. Because a man who can't communicate clearly, who uses ambiguity to manipulate, hasn't faced his shadow, hasn't done the work to grow, hasn't learned to love in a way that's honest, open, and true. Carl Jung's insights on toxic relationship signs remind us that healthy love is built on clear communication, on mutual respect, on a willingness to be vulnerable, not on games, not on riddles, not on emotional traps that leave you feeling small. And if a man can't offer that clarity, if he uses his words to confuse and control, it's time to break the cycle, to walk away, to choose your peace over his ambiguity, because Carl Jung inner peace women deserve a love that feels safe, a love that feels clear, a love that feels real. Have you ever felt the confusion of this phrase, the way it made you doubt your own choices? Let's finish with a deeper look at how to protect your inner peace from these harmful words. We've explored 5 phrases that signal it's time. To walk away, you have to accept me as I am. A refusal to grow. All my exes were crazy. A sign of victimhood. If you really loved me, you'd do what I ask. A form of manipulation. You're not enough for me. A blow to your worth. And do whatever you want. A passive-aggressive trap. Each one a red flag. A warning that Carl Jung's wisdom helps us see. A warning that these words often stem from a man's shadow, his unaddressed flaws, his refusal to grow, his inability to love in a way that's healthy, respectful, and true, leaving you drained, diminished, and far from the peace you deserve. Carl Jung taught us that true growth begins when we face our shadow, when we take responsibility for our own healing, our own maturity. But if a man can't do that, if he uses his words to manipulate, to control, to hurt, it's not your job to fix him. It's your job to protect yourself, to set boundaries, to walk away, to choose a life that honors your worth. A life where your inner peace women can shine. A life where you're free to love and be loved in a way that lifts you up, not pulls you down. Carl Jung set boundaries isn't just about saying no, it's about saying yes to yourself, yes to your peace, yes to your joy, yes to a love that feels safe, a love that feels real, a love that feels like home. Because your peace is like a flame that deserves to burn brightly, a flame that deserves to be protected, a flame that deserves to light up your life, no matter who's by your side. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever heard one of these phrases and felt its weight, or had to walk away to protect your peace? If this video spoke to your heart, please give it a like, subscribe to Ageless Philosophies, and share it with someone who might need to hear this today, because you deserve a life filled with peace, a life filled with love, a life that begins with the strength of your own boundaries. And I'm here to support you on that journey, cheering you on as you embrace your truth and find the peace you've always deserved.